And then Marco, let's do the 1,000-foot view.
Okay. All right, so showing up with Daryl. Start the rapport process. Take a look at the house. Use it as an opportunity to demonstrate expertise, build more rapport. Then, mention typically not the house we buy, but what are you thinking of? And that's where I go into the two options. And then go over comps.
And give a brief overview of the two options as well.
Yeah, brief overview of two options.
No, like in
pros
your
and
little
cons.
1,000-foot, just what they are.
Oh, okay. Two options would be, one is to sell to an investor.
Yep.
Here's the pros and cons of that. The other is which is what most people do, is sell on the market, and the pros and cons of that. And then go into comps, and then after comps, kind of get more feedback from them of what they might want to do, and then go more into how we do it. Just share with you, talk about what investors do, what realtors do, and just more in the context of educating them and helping them out. And then what we do, what we found is successful, to share with them, and then go into the marketing, how that works, coming soon, the importance of pricing it right, how that's critical, number one thing, and then details of how we go about making it work from the marketing perspective, and then wrap up with the level with them conversation, and then why don't I just do this for you?
And what's the level with them conversation? What does that entail? Or how's that supposed to go ideally?
It's the way I've used it is just to what do you really want to do here? Do you really want to sell this house? And if you do, based on everything we've gone through, what do you really want to do here?
Good. Yep, that's right. And what are some answers that you've been hearing in your meetings?
Some answers have been like timing. A lot have related to timing. I know we're encouraged to go on meetings even too soon. It is an opportunity to build a rapport, but lately that's just been the thing. So all I do is keep in touch with them until the timing is right, in a way that's helpful. What works for me is just sending them helpful emails about, hey, just saw this article about what the market's doing in Washington right now, or whatever it is, or this is what just happened with interest rates. Something that keeps them in the know, so that I'm in front of them in an educational way. Other objections I've gotten are, and this was the guy that I actually signed up, the listing I signed up in Woodbridge. Well, if I would have known you weren't going to buy the house for cash, I just wouldn't have had you come out. I said, but that's when the level with the conversation came in. And I said, but what do you really want to do here? Do you want to just stay in the house then, or do you want to sell it? Well, I do want to sell it. And so that's when I was like, well, why don't we just do this for you?
Yeah. And what did he say?
He had signed up.
Yep. And what meeting was this one?
This one was Danville Road in Woodbridge.
Okay.
2 weeks ago.
Okay. Yep. Okay, good. Marco, you want to do the same 1,000-foot view real quick?
Yeah. So knock on the door, introduce yourself, do a quick walkthrough of the house, sit down with them, go through the two options, how there's cash as is, or as is with an investor, as is on the open market, and how 90% of people go with realtors nowadays. So then pull out the comps, basically go through it with them, kind of, set their expectation for what they should be getting for the price or for their house. Then go more into pricing about how most of the time when people are trying to get the most out of it as possible, they'll knee-jerk reaction is to overprice. We found that that's the exact opposite of what you should do. Going to the coming soon, how we basically do that with all of our properties. It's about a week long, can associate a price with it, and we can go back and look at the analytics of it, figure out where it needs to be before you go live and it's in the blood sport arena of the MLS. Then go into marketing, how we use all of the premier spots on Zillow, Trulia, Hot Pads, all of those, spend over $15,000 a month in marketing, and how that's one of the biggest things when it comes to selling a house, that marketing and the price. Marketing's huge because there's no real substitute for the amount of eyeballs that you can get on the property. Then basically once after you kind of disqualified the cash offer, like Terry said, go into the level with them, basically like, so, I mean, since the cash offer is not going to work, what's your plan? Like, what are you going to be doing with it? And then see if you can kind of uncover their true motivation, see if you can go after that.
Yep, that's right. Good. All right, Victoria, you want to do something?
Okay. Knock on the door, have them take you around like on a little tour, comment on lots of stuff, get them to talk about whatever, and then go through as is to investor, as is on the market, put in some comps there, and then comps lead to pricing. When you do pricing, you do coming soon. You talk about after pricing is marketing, like he said, Zillow, all the other websites that we use. And then after marketing, I think is like the level with them conversation.
After marketing is the, yes.
And basically that's when you try and sign them or get them to ask to sign with you.
Yeah, so what's the purpose of the level with them conversation, or how are you using it?
Sort of as, like she said, like when they realize that we're not going to give them what they want, asking them like, what do you want to keep this house, or were you just like interested in knowing a number? And when they say, oh, I don't want to stay here, that's kind of when you say, well, like, you know, I can just do it for you if that's really what you want.
Yeah, that's right.
Sort of get them for them to see their own motivation.
And so good, yeah. And so when we, like, what's the easy way that we went over on email to figure out what our cash offer is going to be, ballpark?
40 to 50% of the Zillow estimate.
Right. Take the Zillow estimate and divide it in half. Right. So if you guys don't, you know, that way you don't have to like ask me or be thinking about it too much or whatever. Take the Zillow estimate, divide it in half. If they would take something around there, then definitely reach out to me and let me know. But yeah,
So-
most of the time they're not going to.
Like the one that I was emailing him about one in Tacoma Park yesterday, but the Zillow estimate is 700, so I don't know if we, like, is there a certain number where we don't offer them just half? Because, like, I feel like,
No.
okay.
Maybe 350, maybe we go up to 400 or 425 depending on the condition. So, you know, you can throw that out there as, you know, most investors are going to offer somewhere in like the mid to upper threes, maybe the low fours, depending on the condition of the house, and then see what the reaction is.
Okay.
So I'd say most investors, not our offer.
Yeah.
And
That's kind of what I did to him. I said, you know, I don't think anyone's going to offer you, as far as an investor, over 450 or 500 for it.
Right. And what does he want?
He wants 700. And I was like,
Right, so that's why it's
Right.
ridiculous, right? So to tell him an investor offers 200, I mean, it doesn't matter what you tell him.
Right.
He's out to lunch. Investor offer's never going to work for him.
Right.
So just kind of
the only reason I
get
didn't
that.
try and sign this guy yesterday is because he's primarily Spanish speaking, and so his daughter came to sort of translate for us. But then there's another daughter who also wants to come for the signing. So I was like, well, next week.
Why does the other daughter have to come?
They're just that type of family. I don't know. But they said they wanted to sign. They just wanted. He was really adamant about hearing.
I would have pushed, try to get him to sign at that time.
I did a little bit, but I didn't want, especially because the daughter came in like after I'd been there for an hour, so I didn't really have the same rapport with her. So I didn't want to push her and have her too early because she came in so much later. But
Let's talk about that. So let's say you have someone like that, right, who says they want to sign, but then they have to do something first. They have to talk to their wife, or they have to have their daughter come in and help them because they're older or whatever. What ideas do you guys have, if any, about how to get them to try to sign it before doing that or sign it without having to do all that.
You can cancel anytime.
I tried to convince them to just do a week, just
Mhm.
until next Monday, and then I'd come back out and we'd sign one for longer if they wanted, just to get it started and
That's
have
good.
them come out to do photos and blah blah blah. But the old guy, the actual owner, who's 90, like really wanted us like to hear the exact number of the cash offer, and so I tried to get him away from that, but it's a little old and a little senile. So.
Yeah, so next time if that happens, take half of Zillow and then make it up, right? So if half of Zillow is $350, say the investor offer would be $379,000,
Right.
which I'm sure is too low for you, like we talked about. So really, I think to get what you want, Mr. Seller, that going on the retail market is going to be the way you're going to get it.
Right.
Any investor is going to be in that same range that we are.
That was mine. I remember him.
He was really cool though. He was awesome. Yeah.
Oh, like when we said 90, I was like,
He just was super old, and like we had a little bit of. I speak a little bit of Spanish, and he speaks a little bit of English, so that was like
yeah,
we weren't quite getting everything connected.
It
but
was super hard to understand him over the phone. I had this difficult one yesterday too. He was Indian. I was getting so frustrated. I was like,
I thought you were crying.
I was so upset. I literally could not like everything that he said sounded like one big baby mumble. Like I could not. I was like, oh my god, like he signed, like we got an appointment, but I was like, maybe he'll be better to understand in person. I was like, I don't know.
Yeah.
So, so for the cash offer, just divide it in half and just make it up.
Okay.
$381,200.14 is our offer. Right. Okay. Next, what's the next thing to talk about? Yeah. Don't let that hang you up.
Do you want us to do like specific numbers?
No, I was just being a jackass. I mean, it's better just to do 390,000 or something like that.
Okay.
But if you feel like you want to do that, if you want to be funny about it or whatever,
Right.
just, like the point is, I don't give a shit. You know, in a scenario like that, like you know, if someone is in the ballpark where they might take a cash offer.
Right. And I knew he wasn't going
You
to.
knew he
He
wasn't.
just like couldn't get past it.
Yeah,
or
so don't drive
something.
yourself crazy about it.
Okay.
Just make it up.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like how you said though, say the investor offer,
Yeah.
Mhm.
not our offer.
Exactly, 'cause you wanna take the pressure
investor
off.
offer is going to be
Right, because then they might just call up another investor, and then
Mhm.
you might have lost the listing anyways, because they
Mhm.
might go with them instead.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, you could say the investor window of opportunity, right? This sort of the retail window of opportunity, which
Yeah.
is like it would sell for like $650 to $750, and then there's the investor window of opportunity, which is like $350 to $450, right? And whatever investor you're going to meet with, Mr. Seller, it could be $351, it could be $349, or it could be anywhere in the middle. Just depends on that investor's numbers and how much their crews have to spend to rehab the house.
Right.
What kind of financing they use, if they use cash, if they use hard money, or if they use something else.
Along with this listing, just because I haven't run into this because
Mhm.
nobody does this anymore, but the Zillow estimate is 710, but there's no central air in the house. So does that, like, I would assume that lowers it.
That would definitely
somewhat.
lower it. So
Yeah.
the Zillow estimate it generally is going to be the house in like fully renovated condition is what I'm
Right.
finding. So I would assume that that is generally the case in most areas, most of your appointments. So if it's not fully renovated, right, like not having AC is
A big
deal,
Yeah.
right? That's going to be at least 10 grand or something to put that in. So you
Right.
definitely want to deduct something off that for sure, off that.
That's what I figured. He was really adamant about 7, and I was like, well, I showed him a few comps, but I was like, I'll print some out for you guys to look at when I come back, so that everyone can kind of agree on it. Because I think his daughters he wants to leave, but I think they're the ones who are like more the motivation, because he is sort of so old. He's just like, oh, my kids can decide.
Mhm.
So I wanted to get stuff for them.
Yeah, that's not atypical when you have an older seller.
Yeah.
So to try to get them to sign now, so the week listing, would be one thing that you can do. And then, like, when does he want to have the house on the market? Does he have any date in mind at all?
He said I could sell it tomorrow, or I could sell it.
But he's not in any particular rush.
I think he wants to leave before it gets cold, because they want to go to El Salvador. They're from El Salvador.
Okay, so when does it get cold? When does he think it gets cold?
November, end of October, probably.
Do you know that, or are you assuming?
I'm assuming.
Yeah, so I would ask that.
Okay.
When do you think it gets cold? Oh, well, usually like November. Okay, so you need to have it sold by November, is that right? So then let's back it out, right? How does that work? Well, then you need to have it under contract 45 days before that.
Right.
That's how long it takes, right? So let's say it's November 1st it gets cold, or whatever he says, right? So then mid-September it has to be under contract, right? It's probably going to take at least a couple of weeks. It could take 30 days to find a buyer. Let's be conservative, say 30 days. That's mid-August.
Yeah. Basically.
What day is it
now.
today?
Yeah.
It's August 1st. It takes us a week to get or 2 weeks, or whatever you want to say it takes, right, to get our photographers lined up. And so you update the listing up. It takes a couple days as well. So if you want to have it up by the 15th to make sure you're out before it gets cold, otherwise you could be here while it's cold,
Right.
then really we need to kind of do it kind of now. Like a week from now, it's going to put you a little bit in. It's not the end of the world, of course, but it could be a little bit cold by the time you're still in the house, depending on how long it takes to do this stuff. Or we could just do it now, and then I'll meet you again, and you can just cancel it. I won't do anything besides get our pictures lined up so we can get the pictures done right away if you say you want to keep going.
Right.
But I'll meet you again, and then if you don't want to do it, we'll just cancel it. There's no fee, penalty, whatever. You're not obligated to do anything.
And you put that, there's a place you can write that in.
Yeah, I've seen
Seller
it.
buyer may cancel at any time without
Yeah.
penalty. That does work.
Mhm.
That helped with the listing that I got in Woodbridge too.
So
Yeah,
when
can you talk about that?
sorry, when you do it like that, does it still include that window of like, well, we had it listed and a buyer came and saw it then, so we're still owed commission?
Yeah,
Okay.
that clause is in there.
Okay.
That's completely separate.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how does that work? Can you explain that to everybody?
About.
It was the thing you write in?
Yeah, and that was just from, and I did together, was, there's a section, I forget what section it is, but you can put broker or seller may cancel at any time without penalty. What section's that in, Kevin?
The notes.
A notes, but there's
Additional
a
notes,
paragraph.
cancellation terms
It's
on the front of
a paragraph number. I don't know.
It's like it's on the signature page, the last page, isn't it?
Oh, that's what it
Virginia or
is?
Maryland.
Okay. 'Cause I put
I
it
think for Maryland,
earlier.
it's on the front
Like,
page.
It's like in the, I think, second
I
page
think
of
it's
the
the
contract
G-Car
somewhere.
one. I don't know.
I might even have it. I think I even have.
I can pull it up.
But anyway, the point is that people like to know they have an out. So if you only get one shot in front of them,
Mm-hmm.
take it. What's the worst that can happen? They cancel the next day? At least you got a signature.
Yeah, I mean, they told me to come back out this coming Monday. Like they said that before I could, so
Yeah, that's
I do
definitely
think
good.
they're serious about it. I
Yeah.
think it just, like the sister showed up so much later that I didn't. I was honestly worried that if I pushed her, she was gonna just say no.
Yeah, that makes it a lot harder. And it's just you have to use your judgment, of course, and it makes it a lot harder. The sister came in late,
Mhm.
but that's one way in that situation you could try to do it. The sister coming in late or daughter, whatever it is, makes it
Okay.
harder.
Daughter, yeah.
Paragraph 28 at the end, additional terms. That's for a Virginia contract.
It's paragraph 27 for Maryland and DC.
So you can write that in.
Yes.
So that's exactly what I would do if they're like on the fence.
Right.
Like if you think that they kind of want to sign up, but they have a reservation at the end just to get them over the finish line.
Excuse me, one of those two.
And that way it's like, because they're much more likely to not lose it if you get them to sign up
Right.
than get it on another appointment.
Okay.
Plus, if they're motivated enough, like in my case, they really didn't, they would have liked to have the cash offer, but nobody knows how that really works.
Right.
But bottom line for them, they did want to sell. They were motivated enough. So that definitely played into it.
Yep,
If they're
yep.
not motivated, it's a lot less likely.
Right.
Yeah. Right. So, and Andrew, do you feel prepared enough to want to do the 1,000-foot view too of the outline?
Yes, I'm sure. Yeah, so, knock on the door, I walk in, I go through the house, I get the two options, and I'll go over comps and pricing, and then I sit down, I'll talk about marketing, and how we price the homes, and we just do a coming soon through Zillow to gauge the price, and then I go into marketing, and I say that help me spend about $15,000 a month on the marketing through Redfin and Zillow and Trulia. And then I kind of like do the level and I gauge, their motivation, and then I'll try to sign them up.
Nice. That's right. Good. Other thing, just random stuff like you guys saw on the cold calling, that we're going to do the commission more weighted in your guys' favor to try to encourage more people to do cold calling on the list there in Mojo. Yeah, that's the biggest sort of announcement. So, all right. So, I kind of want to do you think we should have to do any of the specific components of the outline, or do you want to do? You want to do something else?
I think we should, let's do that. Then I'll spend 3 minutes just talking about what we talked about after the last one. Kind of going back through. So in the last training, Victoria was saying at times she felt like she had some difficulty having the meetings last for, beyond 45 minutes or whatever it was. And we talked about that, so we'll go through that real quick. So,
and then like the motivation, because some people were saying it's like 15% or 10% or 20% of people that they're meeting with actually are like motivated enough to want to sign up now.
So I think, my experience, I think roughly a third of the people I meet with are not ready, and it's some form of like, maybe they are going to sell, but it's going to be in a year, or maybe they are just curious about the offer and weren't thinking about selling, but just decided to have somebody come out for God knows why. About a third of them, like where it doesn't matter if you're doing backflips, it's not going to happen, right? And then I think you've got about 2/3 of them that are gettable, sort of like for something. And I think of those 2/3, you want to be getting, about half of them. And I think it's easy to underestimate what percentage of people are willing to sign up. And I think you don't have to take my word for it. I think you'll find that if you are very diligent about following up with people after you meet with them, and are kind of persistent, and you also watch their house, like on Zillow, you'll see that people you thought were not going to sell will sell their house. So they did it with somebody else, and that's like something I've seen time and time again. I used to be like surprised by it, and then once that kind of sunk in, I started adopting this sort of different attitude. Like, you kind of have to like push these people a little bit and not take what they say at face value, especially at the beginning of the meeting, because a lot of these people are going to sell their house, and despite what they may be telling you in the first half an hour when you're there. So I think it's a worthwhile sort of exercise to, for all your leads, you should be following up anyway, but I think you will find that many of these people are going to end up selling it to an investor, selling it on the market or whatever within the next 6 months, and they will have done it obviously with somebody else. So to that end, I think part of what we were talking about before is kind of pushing through that initial 30 minutes of the meeting. So it's kind of like making the meetings longer so you can really kind of get in there and get their motivation. And I think in doing that, you'll find that it's more than 10, 15, whatever percent of these people are legit prospects, for selling. And I think if you think about it like conversely, all of these people have called in, right, off of a card or whatever it may be, and asked for a meeting. So it doesn't really make sense that 85%, almost 9 out of 10 of those people are calling in that have no desire to sell. It just doesn't make sense. So while there's certainly going to be people like that, it's not going to be 8 or 9 out of 10. And if you think about it like that, it just doesn't make sense that people would be calling in, spending time, and setting up an appointment if they really just didn't want to sell their house at all. So in terms of making the meetings longer, I think that's like your best kind of, it's rapport, right? Like that's how you're going to kind of break through on some of these tougher prospects. You know, it's like, it'd be nice if all of the meetings were like somebody who was like, yes, I'm ready to sell. I want to sell in 2 months or 1 month, and I want to do this, and like, give me some advice, tell me what to do. But most of them aren't like that, right? So pushing through, making the meetings longer is really like the best formula, and I think you know, that's something that we wanted to, I guess, continue to talk about. For me, I guess generally speaking, I just kind of like basically keep talking and like babbling, and I just like sort of don't leave, even when it's probably socially acceptable. And so, and like Gigi has been in a couple of my meetings and has been frustrated, I think, with me because she'll be like, I thought the meeting was over, I thought we were leaving, and then we didn't leave. We stayed for like another hour. And so like, that's like, I think you have to kind of become comfortable like ignoring a little bit of the normal social cues. I mean, and just kind of like keep asking questions, keep talking, and kind of pushing them until, I mean, obviously, you know, you don't want them like calling the police, asking you to leave, but I mean, that is like the number one way to kind of break through with some of these people who are tough at the beginning, or they seem like they don't want to sell. You will find the longer you stay that some of these people are going to change their tune. I mean, that's kind of the nugget there.
Yeah.
Do you want me to talk about times?
Yeah, do you have a couple like quick examples? Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. Lady Rogers is a good one.
Okay, well, we got to appointment like really late, probably like 30 minutes late, and they were obviously mad. Like we could see that they were annoyed. They even like said they were annoyed with us. And so Kevin just like apologized and just kept going on with the appointment, and like they knew that he knew he was wrong. And then towards the end, he decided to ask them what they thought of a picture that I had on my phone of me. Basically, like, used me to, like...
On your social media account.
Yeah, why don't you explain it?
Yeah, so, like, the meeting was good. I mean, like, it was a long meeting, and, like, they were clearly annoyed with me at the beginning, and because I was late, and I think they just also didn't really like me that much at the beginning. And which is cool. And so like it was a long meeting, and it was pretty good, but I didn't feel like, I knew we weren't getting them to sign up then. So I felt like it was a good meeting, but it wasn't going to be good enough to like, it was just going to be hard to like kind of get back in there. Like I didn't feel like I had enough traction, even though I had been there for like almost 2 hours. So I felt like it was like I needed to like break through more with the report. And it was the mom and the daughter was there helping the mom kind of figure out like what she was going to do with his house. So then towards the end, I felt like I needed something additional. So I asked the daughter to look at some pictures that Gigi had on her social media account of her, and whether or not they were appropriate. And because it was like, you know, I didn't think they were.
They're appropriate. There's some shorts.
The daughter didn't
shorter
think
shorts.
they were.
Okay.
So it was sort of two against one on that. But she finally kind of like loosened up, and then was talking, and then she was giving her advice and like about being a professional.
They completely
totally
changed.
Turned on a dime, and she was like giving me like fist pounds. It was so. I really think that you'll find, and now I think we're going to get that deal. So there's like, as I've said before, there's no substitute for like time and rapport. And
I think an important part of building the rapport is honestly talking about things that don't even relate to the house. Like,
Yep.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
that is, I don't know, the HGTV thing that we talked about, like the with
The Property
Teresa,
Brothers.
the Property Brothers,
I
like
hate them.
Like even
Thank
with
you.
Lady Rogers,
There you
we
go.
were talking to her about like her mom. We were talking to her mom about how her dad, the stuff that her dad had done to the house. Like I guess that is about the house, but it's still like she was telling me, we were talking about Florida and how there's chickens in Florida, like just things that are not even, it helps them open up, and I think that really helps.
Yeah.
And literally he asks the same question, I'm not kidding, at least 4 times. 2 days ago, or what day was that? On Friday. We went to this guy's house and he said, Kevin asked for the numbers, and the man replied and said, oh, well, I don't really like to give that if I don't have my Excel sheet in front of me, because I don't have to apologize later on if I give you an inaccurate number. And then the next thing he said was, well, could you give me like a ballpark number or something like that? Like basically saying the
I
same
asked him like
thing.
3 times around. I was like, well, just an estimate. He was like, no. I was like, okay, how about a ballpark?
And this guy, in the beginning, I was even like, I was like, this is gonna be a bad appointment. I can just feel it was bad. But towards the end, he loosened up with us. He was like making jokes. I mean, they were weird jokes, but
And this guy is like maybe the Zodiac killer. I don't know. He
Yeah.
said that he.
like he told us that if he died in front of us, to take him out to the woods and have the raccoons eat him.
He said he put his brother in a chum bucket and threw him over the side of a boat in Florida.
Yeah.
The weirdest one I had was some guy who talked about he was like a butcher, but specifically just gutting the animals, and went on about that for like 20 minutes. And I was like,
So you could
But that's
use that
great,
and
though.
just start
That's great.
talking.
Right.
Like if you know that they like something, if you can tell they're passionate about what they're talking about, and even the guts, like you should just continue on with that, like because it will help them like you more and want you to stay longer and listen to you. I mean, one other person like had me sit down in his movie theater that he made and put on a whole movie not a whole movie, but so I could hear the sound system. And I sat
she
there
was
and
like, I'm just gonna stay here for a while.
yeah, well, I just I did that, and then he wanted to show me his lights. That he had this button, this key, like lights like came down so you could change them. And he was so proud of these lights, and I knew that sitting there just doing that was making him feel like important, and that was something that helped him like want us to stay around. So.
Yeah, I mean, like what percentage importance is rapport versus the actual nuts and bolts of what you talk about? Just in the meetings overall, I know it varies based on how reasonable the person is.
Right, and I think like on average, rapport is going to count. Is going to be more than half of it, maybe 60% of it, or more. So, I mean, it is with the meeting. Like you can give them like great advice, and I know all of you are, but like that's not nearly enough. So, like sticking it out with these people and like just
I mean,
counts for. You can tell them quickly.
Okay, so there's this one person, and he was cray. Like he was right when we walked in, he was yelling at Kevin, asking him for his license, and then wanted my license. And this was the very first appointment I think that I ever gone on with him, and I was really freaked out because I didn't even know like what to do or like feel. And he just handled it like very well. Was so calm. Just gave him his license. Didn't really think twice about it. And then his wife ended up calling you. I mean, we didn't end up selling that house, but then his wife wanted you to help her with getting her a house
Right.
afterwards. So I feel like the way that he handled Badula, which is the husband, made her like us, and she actually,
Yeah, he's a lunatic.
he was
He's a
really
lunatic.
crazy.
His shirt was like half unbuttoned, but yeah, he was just like yelling at me the entire time. And then I wanted like more identification. I gave him like 10 business cards. I kept giving him business cards.
He
And
hid
putting
them
them
in
in like picture frames and stuff in their house.
How did you show them your light? Is this DC?
No, my driver's
Your
license.
driver's license?
And then I pulled up my
okay.
DC license on here. I gave him
Okay.
like 10 cards.
I feel like I don't
my
live at
credit
this address
cards and
anymore
stuff.
though.
Yeah.
That's
And
my
then he
old
wanted
address.
mine, and
I
then
was
he's
like-
like, "That's no, you don't need that."
Yeah. But Yeah, anyway, but.
I mean,
think
if I
that's
was there, I mean, if you weren't there, I probably would have been really freaked out and said no, and then that would have just ended the whole thing. But you just have to.
Yeah, so I
go
mean,
with it.
I think those are all good examples too. And I mean, the other thing too that he did by showing the pictures of Gigi is like just take more risks, be a little more bold, and the questions that you're asking like get more personal people than you feel like you should. There's another like just thing to just do in general. Like I mean, sometimes that's not going to go well potentially, so you have to use it sort of like a little bit of discretion, but like be a little more like personal, be a little more like bold with the stuff you're talking about and that you're sharing about yourself and asking about them. Because that can kind of help as well.
Because I don't think we would have gotten. I think we'd probably get that deal, and I think we probably would have not gotten it if we didn't kind of do that at the end. Because although the meeting was good and it was fine, it wasn't good enough to warrant like they were talking to other people. They would, it wasn't going to be memorable enough to probably get the deal.
Did you set the next appointment before leaving?
I can't remember if I did or not. I think so.
I think it was.
I think
Yeah, but
so.
then they didn't. They ended up. I think
We had to we did have a second meeting, and that was
Oh,
good
okay.
too. We already had that. So,
Okay.
yeah.
And they text all the time.
I text with her a lot, the daughter.
I think
How old is this daughter? Because I'm like a little concerned.
Oh, she's like 30.
Oh, okay. I thought she was like
Oh, yeah,
17,
no,
and I was like,
no.
this is
No,
bordering weird.
No. She's
She's 12.
I feel like you have to just be able to feel comfortable being awkward sometimes because I sometimes even feel awkward.
For it. Like
Yeah,
when you're watching
and I'm
a
not
movie
even
and
the
you're
one,
like,
having the
oh.
conversations. I just kind of feel like no, this is really awkward right now, but
I like
you
it.
can't tell that he feels awkward, so you just have to
because I
keep.
don't.
That's because he has no shame. Zero.
So you have to do just do the same thing because what's the worst thing that's going to happen? They're either going to really like you or they're not going to like you. And do you really care? Like, I mean, you care if they don't like you, but if you try for them to like you, at least that's what counts.
Yeah, you're never gonna see him again. So it's sort of like you just have to kind of go for it while you're there, and even take risks with what you're talking about, how you're acting with them. Because if it blows up, you're not any worse off than you were if you just have a generic 45-minute meeting
And I'm
without
not
enough
saying-
rapport. You're gonna get a no either way.
I
So take
wouldn't
the risk.
lie to anyone, but just be like, even if you think something is nice looking, you could just compliment the house in some way. Be like, oh, I really like that painting.
Kevin's like,
you might
lie.
not think it's that cute, but it's okay to
Gorgeous.
just kind of have a white lie.
And it
makes
is
them-
true. Like I've never had a meeting like blow up before, like where people got like because it's not like I'm asking to use their bathroom and coming out in like a Chippendale outfit or something. Like I'm not doing anything that's like inappropriate. Like it's a little like they're probably like asking about the pictures, like whatever. It's not that like insane, right? Like people are just kind of. So I've never really had it like backfire. I think you have to sort of do it with a certain degree of like assurance that it's fine. But you certainly don't need to get like crazy in there, right? Like, so. But you
Not even
want to
Chris
kind of like
Wheeler?
get a little, do something that's a little bolder if you feel like the meeting is just kind of generic.
All right. So what else do you want to go through some of the specific
Sure.
pieces of it?
Sure.
All right. Well, why don't we just go around and just go through one of the specific components of it, marketing or pricing or coming soon or whatever, just going through the script basically. So whoever wants to start first, and you can pick anyone you want, pricing, marketing, coming soon, 2 options, whatever.
I'll do coming soon. Okay, so we found that it's critically important to get pricing right. And one of the ways that we've found most successful in doing that is what's called coming soon, which is pre-marketing really. It's before the clock starts ticking on your house being available. It's not public record, so marketing the house through Zillow as a coming soon means that we're putting it out there that the house is going to be available. We'll have all the pictures taken so it's nicely outlaid. But what's really key is that it's measurable. We'll know within a week, no more than a week, if we've priced the house right, and if any adjustments need to be made either up or down. Some of the benchmarks we look at are if, 50 or more clicks, or well, actually 100 clicks is what we're looking for. 100 plus clicks tells us that we've probably that we've priced the house correctly. Less than that, like under 50, we've got to probably lower it, but we can do that before actually going live with the full-blown marketing plan of the house on the MLS, through all the online advertising that we do to drive more eyeballs.
Yep.
Stop there.
And what's the benefit of doing it on the Coming Soon and doing the price drop there instead of on the MLS? You kind of talked about it.
Because there's not a record of it that everybody can see.
Mhm.
On the MLS, that's where everything is tracked and everybody can see it. So if there's price drops, especially multiple drops, that tends to attract your lower offers.
Mhm.
I mean, that's the point, though. Right?
Yeah, that's kind of the key.
That's the key point that you want to make. Like, you're doing a good job explaining sort of how it works, but the importance of it, you want to provide just as much explanation around that, so they understand kind of oh, this is a benefit, right? Otherwise, you want to make sure they totally understand the benefit.
Mm-hmm.
And most people, I think, if you tell them, we've all seen the MLS, right, tracks the number of days you've seen houses that just sit right on the market.
Yeah, and I do.
For 40 days, 65 days, and then that's bad. Nobody's going to disagree with that. They're going to be like, I don't want that. That's the hammer there.
Yeah.
And then where are the opportunities within the Coming Soon, for example, to have a pause for agreement or whatever as you're going through it? Right, so I think one of the ones is I know he asked about Zillow. You've heard of Zillow, right? Not even assuming they've heard of Zillow, especially if they're older. I don't even know what Zillow is. So just taking the time to make sure they're understanding as you're going through it.
Yeah, and then saying about houses sitting on the market like that. You've seen that, right? You've probably seen that with your neighbors or something. The house just sitting, right? And then with the Zillow thing, I'll like I said, I'll take it a step further. I'll be so what's great about that is because we're doing that before it goes on the MLS, like you said, we can track exactly how many people click on your house, who save it because they want to look at it later. People can inquire about the house, send an email through Zillow. So we can track all of that data. So you're making it super clear, how we're measuring this and why it's a benefit, because we're doing this now before it's actually listed.
Yeah, because when you were going through it, and obviously it's a role play scenario, but it was a little more. I got a little more lost in the details of it. I thought you were hitting on the right points, but it wasn't as clear what the benefit was. As I was listening to it, to the seller.
I talked too soon then, because I do go into, which would you rather have? You probably see a lot of people fall into this trap when they list their house. They tend to price it too high, and then it sits on the market. And I go into the one open house. If we even do that, it's for an hour, and it's to attract people to come, and if they're going to place an offer on the house, just be ready to do so, because it's a tight time frame.
Yeah, but when you talk about the clicks, the 100 clicks and the 50 clicks and stuff like that, I was starting to get a little bit I would just be careful with that. He adds that in as detail or whatever, but the benefit of it is what he was talking about, right? We're this is the data that we know as to if your house is priced appropriately, without it being a public record issue where everyone else in the market sees that your price is dropping, and in a good market with the price dropping, that's sort of a big red flag for people and causes even more issues for you. So this is a safe space to test it. So that's sort of more important, right, than I think, than how many clicks or whatever, because that's not even going to mean anything to them. You can add that in as context, flush it out to make it longer.
Gotcha.
Does that make sense? Yeah.
And the only reason I ever say the number of clicks is because I say, you know, we've learned, you know, of course I'm saying this like, this is how we would do it with our houses. You know, we've learned over the years how many clicks we should be seeing to know that the price is kind of in the sweet spot. And so that's an important sort of disclaimer before you throw in, we know you want to see like 90, 100 clicks a day on average, whatever, because that sort of gives, you're now saying, okay, like, we've done this through trial and error, we know something about this that isn't common knowledge, right? Like, we've kind of figured this process out. Not everybody does it, not everybody would know. Anybody can do it, but we've done it so many times we actually know what to look for. And that's also, like, I think a really important part of that. It's like, I'm telling you something that makes sense, it's going to help you, and I have the experience to do it right.
And no other agent is going to be talking about this with the seller. Generally speaking, like, no other agents talk about this. This is a unique thing they haven't heard before. Oh, okay. Victoria, why don't you pick one, go through it.
Okay, I'll do the two options. So basically when you sit down with them, there's two ways you can sell your house. The more popular version is to go with a real estate agent and put it on the open market. You're always most likely going to get more money that way, but it's more of a disruption to your life, I guess. The other way is to do it with an investor, and you don't have to do anything with an investor. You're going to sell it as is to them. They're not even going to do an inspection. They're just going to come in, they're going to make you an offer, and they're going to go through with it, and whatever they find, they're just going to deal with on their own. Similar to that, you can also sell it on the market as is, which you're going to get more money for, but you're still going to sell it as is. You're not going to do anything. You're not going to fix anything. People are going to come in and do an inspection, but you can say, we're not going to fix anything. Typically, we try and shorten that down to a really short window so that they can't back out later of the deal. So normally we do say within 7 days is the inspection. And then they have until the end of those 7 days to decide whether they're going to continue with the contract or not. And after that, they can't back out because of the inspection. That's sort of the gist. But I did it a little bit out of order, so it didn't end quite right.
And so you were talking about how we do it,
Mm-hmm.
right? How we do it, where we do a short period of time, so if they back out, it's like right up front.
Mm-hmm.
How we do it, what? For our clients selling their houses, or what?
Yeah, so when we sell our houses, we
Exactly.
typically shorten
right.
it
So
down
I
to
would make
7
sure you
days.
add that context in, right? So,
Okay.
so we're selling, 30 or 40 houses a year.
Mm-hmm.
And when we're doing it, we do is we want to make sure when we're selling a renovated house, we have the shortest window possible
Right.
right? So like provide that like context, right? Like that it's coming from us as the expert, as the investor. I think that I think is one thing to add.
And so, one thing I think you've probably heard me say is like, keep in mind what the purpose of this component of the scripting is, right? So here you're at the beginning of the meeting, so they're expecting a cash offer, so you're addressing that, the reason that you're there, but you're also presenting both options in a way that is pretty neutral. So you really want to, like we talked about, I think, give more of the pros and cons, because this is your kind of free pass to be like, both of them have pros and cons, right? The cash offer is going to be less, that's the downside, but you get these conveniences. Putting it on the market, you're going to get more money, that's the main upside, but it's going to be, you got more hurdles to clear, right? So a big part of what you're doing there is sort of setting the stage. You got two choices, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're kind of saying what the pros and cons of each are, and you're addressing that reason that you're there, which is for the cash offer. And then once you've said this in a very neutral way, you can say, you can ask them a question, like, how important are those conveniences to you? Whatever it is, like, start the dialogue. So I think it's important, like, I do think kind of walking them through the as-is, the home inspection piece is relevant, but, like, the bigger picture there is, like, option A, option B, here's the good and the bad of each.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
That makes more sense when you put that one.
Yeah, it was kind of similar to Tara, where like it was a little bit lost in the details.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So basically, you have two options when you decide you want to sell your house. You can sell it to an investor, There's some pros and cons to that. One of the pros is that it's going to be easier. You're not going to have to do anything.
Before you even go in, right, just sort of talk about, like, you have two options. You can sell to an investor, you can sell on the market.
Okay.
Both of these options have things that are good, things that are not so good. And then I would pause and just like look at the person. Just like this,
Yeah.
At least 30 seconds.
Yeah.
if not longer.
I will pick my nose during that time too.
But and also practice the delivery too, as if you were in front of a
Right.
seller. I mean, it's an awkward situation, and you're probably a little nervous because you're in front of everybody. Try to practice the delivery on it as well. Like you'll notice when he's talking through it as well, it's kind of like he's talking to someone who's kind of stupid.
Yeah.
I'm going to talk to you like you're kind of dumb.
But talk slow.
Well, you have to kind of expect that they don't know
Yeah,
what the hell
they
you're
don't
talking
know.
about
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah,
They don't know it's the first time they're hearing it, you know.
Yeah.
So you have to like over explain things in like a super simplistic way.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, why don't you just try again? This is good practice, and we'll keep doing this because the delivery thing is something that we have to, I think,
Just pretend like I'm an idiot. That shouldn't be hard.
I mean, that's what I think anyways.
Yeah,
right.
like-
Yeah. Pretend like you.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Seller, there's two ways to sell your house. You can sell it to an investor or you can sell it on the market. There's a bunch of pros and cons to both of them. So if you're going to sell to an investor, you're going to get less money, but it's a lot easier. You're not going to have people coming through your house. You're not going to have to fix anything. You're not going to have to repaint your trim because of, whatever. So it's going to be a little bit easier, but you're going to get less money. And then you can also put it on the market. Hold on, before that. When you go with an investor, they're not going to come do an inspection. They're going to say whatever issues come up, that's why we put in this buffer. We offer less money so that we can fix whatever comes up on our own. If you sell it on the market, you can sell it on the market as is as well. When you do that, you're going to get more money because you're going to get more money on the market. People are going to come into your home. You're probably going to have to leave sometimes when you do tours, but you're going to get more money. You can sell it as is, which is basically the same thing as an investor. You're not going to fix anything. You're not really going to do anything, but they are going to come in and do an inspection. Typically with our houses, we try and shorten that inspection period to 7 days or so, so that we're not wasting a whole 3-4 weeks on them for them to back out.
Yeah. So I think that was definitely better.
Definitely better.
Yeah, I think you can even go even farther with it though, right? Like there's two options. Sell to an investor, you sell on the market.
I'm
Both
going to
of
make
these
like
have-
flashcards. Investor, market.
Right. Like both have pros and cons.
Right.
Right? On the investor side, and see like there's sort of on the investor, so it's super clear, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like here are the bad things, but here's the good things, right? Or you did the good things first and the bad things, whatever. But so I think we'll keep kind of practicing that.
Yeah,
Much better though. Much better.
Definitely better, and like you can always like slow it down too.
Yeah, and like
Okay.
more pauses.
Yeah.
Especially
I
in
feel
the
like I
things
kind
that
of
are
do it
important.
fast here because I'm like, hello everyone. There's a lot of
Yeah, it's hard in a role play.
It's very hard.
Yeah, it's hard.
Like John, there's two options. Anytime somebody's going to sell their house, they kind of like two options, right?
jerk.
Right, and ideally even like get them to sort of like ideally see them processing it, right? Where they're kind
Right.
of like.
The wheels are
Okay,
turning, yeah.
Right. You know what I mean? Like, cause sometimes like we're kind of running through it, right? We sort of memorized the script and we're kind of running through the script. Now we're sort of, this is the phase where we have to act it,
Right.
right? We're actors on the stage in front of the seller.
Right.
You gotta get them. You gotta like. I ask
Reel 'em
them
in.
questions. Like I'll be like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you got two options, right?
Yeah, that's true, and that's also a good way to gauge like if they're even
Right.
with you on it.
If
Because
they're,
if you
like,
get to the end and they
attention.
have no idea what you're
Yeah.
talking about,
If they're
then it was
responding,
useless anyway.
They're going to be more likely
Right.
to
Right.
listen if they know that you're going to like call on them.
Right.
Be like, you can sell it to an investor, me or somebody else, or put it on the market. Yeah, that's what most people do, right? Yeah. And then, so it's like slow and like you're sort of forcing them to listen to what you have to say.
Exactly.
Because it's so like easy to follow and you're pausing and you're staring at them that like they don't have the ability, they can't like kind of drift off because you're like asking them
Right.
questions and staring at them and acting like, sort of weird.
Yeah, you're almost like forcing the information down their like into their brains.
Right.
Right. As opposed to we're just saying the words where we're saying the things. We're like forcing the information piece by piece into their brain. We don't go to the next part until the part we already said we see has been like processed in their brains.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of how you should be thinking. That also helps elongate like the meeting as well, make it like more interactive, not like a sales pitch sort of as much.
Has anybody been to a second meeting and then somebody had a question, you had a conversation about something that you already explained to them in the first meeting? It happens all the time. It happens to me. It happens all the time because people can only process so
Right.
much information.
Especially when you start getting there like an hour or 2 hours.
Yeah, and you're like
they're
talking
at
about
their
like
level.
as is and home inspections and like all this. They're like, like so. There's people can only retain so much,
Yeah.
and they're only going to hear like half of it and retain even less. So like that's why like just hammering home the key points is so critical because when you leave and you walk out the door, they're only gonna remember a few things that you really said. So it has to be the right stuff.
Mhm.
And let's do real quick, Mark. I want you to do the two options as well, and with a focus on like what we're talking about, but like really overplay it,
Okay.
with the whole two options thing, and just like you're sort of forcing it into Mr. Turdy's brain as the seller.
All right. So when people are deciding to sell, you've got two options. You can go traditionally through a realtor, which most people end up doing. But you can also sell to an investor like me for cash as is. What most people don't realize is that you can actually sell in the open market as is. That's a different kind of as is. See, when we buy it, we'll bring somebody in to check out all the major issues, but we're not going to back out of the deal if we find something that's just for us to deal with. If you're selling it through a realtor as is, you're basically saying you can have a home inspector come through, and they will. But you're just not going to warrant the condition. You're not going to offer any credits or do any upgrades as a result of something they find in the home inspection. So basically, they're going to bring their home inspector through. If they find something wrong, they'll have a contingency or a period to get out of the contract. Typically, it's 14 days, but we'll counter that down to 7, so it's shorter. We want to know right off the bat if they're going to go through with the deal. If not, then we're going to try to work with another buyer. So that's essentially it, right? Just the as is.
Yeah. So it was better, and when you were being ridiculous about it at the beginning, it was better.
Yeah. And what like
Like I'm sure I could tell you felt like silly or whatever, like, and you were kind of like doing it like half, just joking around. But it was better.
And like when I was a lawyer, we had like this contractor come in and help lawyers with like public speaking. And one of the things that they did when they would come in is they would be like, get up and talk about something and like be more animated than you're comfortable with. Like it's gonna feel over the top, but like do it. And then they recorded us like doing it normally, and then more over the top, and even more over the top. And I think the whole point of the exercise was like, even when you're sort of like think that you're acting ridiculous, it's less than you think. And so you would see yourself on there and it's like, oh, that wasn't as bad as I thought. Like it feels weird because it's not how you would normally talk, but it's not as weird as you think it is. And so that's something to kind of keep in mind. If you're kind of being a little bit more like we're talking about, it's not going to come off the way that you may think it is necessarily in your mind.
I have a question about as is.
Yeah,
So I know
just
that-
just one
Okay,
more
yeah.
quick. And the other thing too is like, when you start talking about the as is on the market, that's when I kind of started to lose the point about like, you have two options, Mr. Seller. Sell on an investor, you sell on the market. And sort of like, you want to kind of keep that frame of like the two options, the pros of each and the cons of each. So on the investor side, here's the pros of it, but you're going to get less money. On the retail side, here's the pros of it, which is basically more money, and then here are the negatives about it. Like, it wasn't, to me, when you were going through it, clear on the pros and cons of the two different options. You sort of started to go into the as is on the market and explain how that worked, and then I kind of lost it at that point.
And then,
So I would just try to keep that more in your mind as you're explaining it, to make sure you get that across, and then you can touch on it, but I think you're focusing on it a little too much.
the as is piece, I mean, that's just one con that you can explain if you want to use it to putting it on the market, right? Like selling it as is, to me as an investor, is like the easiest version of as is, different than doing it on the market, right? So you're saying the benefits, pros and cons, that's the whole thing, and then you can talk about some of the specifics. So the as is piece is one con for putting it on the market. Having people traipse through your house to see it is one con of putting it on the market. So you give them the high level picture, then you can talk about some of the actual negatives in more detail. Like you can have people coming through your house, you're gonna have to leave. You don't know if they're gonna be using the bathroom or what, you know? So like you just say, you know, that's a negative. You're saying it's less convenient to sell it on the market. Let me tell you, you know, some of those things that are less convenient about it.
Yeah. So it's almost like a newspaper, right? You give the headline, and then you have like the explanation below it. So that's how all of these things should be, right? Here's the headline, here's the overall point in the framework, and then now I'm gonna explain like each component. But then you keep referencing back to the main point. Because we were just kind of getting lost in the main point with the details of the script, because the way it was written out. So we'll keep practicing this, but that's what you should be thinking about.
I mean, I haven't had anyone question me on this yet, but like when like even though you put it on the market as is, doesn't mean that you're not willing to like fix stuff that comes up in the inspection.
It depends.
Right. So, but that's just how we explain it to them.
Well, if they want to put it that way, they can.
Okay.
There's plenty of people who do it that way. That's how banks sell their houses, right? We're not going to fix shit.
Right.
You can do a home inspection, and then you can go stuff it up your ass, basically. Right? You know, and that's fine. And they take less money
Right.
by doing that, right? They get to say "fuck you," but then they get less money.
Right.
And you would write that in the additional notes.
Yeah.
So
Take home inspection, roll tightly,
yeah, buyer.
insert.
They're free to do it
Right.
and stuff in your hands.
Right.
Okay. Gotcha.
So they certainly can, right?
Okay.
Or you can do more of like a quasi as is, right? Where it's
Right.
like we're basically not going to fix anything, but you find a major thing like the roof is fucked or something.
Right. We'll take the money off or whatever.
Right. Exactly. So, but just
So that's
for
like
simplicity
later.
of
That's
explanation.
way later on, anyways. That you would be deciding that kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And you won't want to go into all those details when you talk about losing the point and them kind of
Right.
glazing over. I mean, they're like, wait, what? Yeah. So okay, so we'll keep doing each component of this thing like this. So we'll do 1,000-foot view at the beginning, like we did now, right at the beginning, and then we'll do each component, but like with a focus on like the delivery of it and like the main point of it, and making sure that's being delivered along with the details. Because I think you guys know most of the script, you know most of the words, which is obviously the first key step. But I think getting the delivery better will help, and then obviously the rapport is like 60% of it. There's only so much we can train on rapport,
So
besides listening to his recordings.
yeah,
you know?
we'll probably do like maybe 10 minutes of a recording, 5 or 10 minutes of recording, maybe each session.
Yeah, we can keep, giving examples of that.
Yeah.
But like you guys have, like 18 of his meetings or whatever on there to see how he does it. So I would encourage you to listen to those and see like what random shit is he talking about to make the meetings go so long.
If you want a really one where he's way over the top, what's that actress in Virginia with the glasses, with the
Pokey.
Asian lady?
Pokey Cam?
Pokey King.
You
Yeah,
should watch
that's
that
a good one.
That's a really good one.
She
Yeah.
screwed us up.
She did, yeah. That's true.
Did she take like your
No,
$1,000?
she like, her husband got sick and then we didn't hear from her for a long time, then she sold it to somebody else. Yeah. And then she was like crying on the phone with me. 'Cause
And you were like, look, I'm over it.
I was like, I don't want to talk anymore. Yeah, I mean, they're all like sort of different,
Right.
you like, but. Yeah.
The glasses ones I feel are more useful than any of your other videos.
Yeah, the glasses help.
Yeah.
You can see the person. and,
Yeah, and you can sort of see
Yeah,
like
you got the glasses,
especially
yeah.
the pen one. I was like, it's a ceiling fan, and it's just like the whole time, and it's like I
Is
can
it
hear you
helpful?
guys, but it's hard to see the reactions.
Yeah, that's
What about
that's
the
good
audio,
feedback.
just the straight audio?
It's still not as good as the.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We gotta get you on the glasses again.
Yeah.
See, he took a spell down the
I
stairs.
fell down the stairs.
Oh.
With
Yeah.
we were wearing the glasses.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he sort of has a little PTSD.
Do you have that video? Can I watch it?
No.
So he's a little gun shy about the glasses now
Yeah,
after
yeah.
that, but we'll get him back on the glasses.
Yeah, I fell down
Yeah.
the stairs in the basement, and I lost something in it was in my pocket, and the guy was like, "Oh, shit."
Did you tumble down the stairs?
I hope you're like, you have to sign or I'm gonna sue you.
I was like, "Damn it."
And what are
Yeah,
these glasses
every
you're
time.
talking about?
Yeah.
Oh, I
Take
necessarily-
video.
They're spy
They're
glasses.
really
You did not have a level 4 here, sir.
Glass.
It's spyglasses.
Yeah, the problem is that they're only for reading, and when I wear them to go downstairs, so I have a hard time.
All right.
I didn't even know you